Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Horror Boys. I'm Tanner.
And I'm Steven.
And we watched some movies that we're going to talk about this week.
And some we're not going to talk about this week.
We're not going to talk about the majority of movies in existence. I'm sad to say.
Well, I meant that we'd watched in the past week. But yeah, Sure. Why not?
We watched Intruder, Idle Hands, and Love and Saucers. That last one kind of seemed odd, but we couldn't find another eye film that we felt like would be appropriate for the podcast. And we both watched Love and Saucers.
I wanted Inferno.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if does that fit?
It's a movie with an eye. Why wouldn't it?
I felt like Intruder and Idle Hands kind of went together.
Where does that idea come from?
Except one was like my favorite slasher movie ever, and the other one was like childhood innocence dying.
Lord of the Idle Hands. That's my pun. Is that clever or what?
Lord of the Idle. What do you mean by that?
Lord of the Flies is about childhood innocence dying.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Kind of. Well, I was going to make a Deadly Games joke, but then I was like, nobody will get that. So. Coming this Christmas.
Well, do you want to talk about Intruder, Steven?
I would love to talk about Intruder.
You want me to give a little intro first, or do you want to?
Yeah, go for that.
So the first film we're going to cover is Intruder. It's from 1989, directed by Scott Spiegel. A night crew of grocery store workers is slowly stalked and killed by an intruder, as the title might suggest. And yeah, that's about it. What did you think of Intruder, Steven?
Intruder is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, slashers ever made.
I totally agree.
As a filmmaker who works at a grocery store, that movie touches everything it needed to. You ever looked at a baler and thought, oh, I wonder what would happen if a human head got put in there? The movie
no
answers
spoilers.
that question.
Well, this one caught us both kind of off guard because it'd been largely off our radar. I don't even remember, I have had it on my watch list, but I don't remember how I found it. And then someone recommended it on Reddit, and I was like, you should look at that. This may be my favorite slasher movie now. Definitely favorite B-movie slasher.
You've watched it twice in the past week, right?
Yeah, I just saw it yesterday. Claire fell asleep after the first hour, but it wasn't because she didn't like it. It was because she was tired. And no, I was pretty impressed once again. It holds up. It's not just like a one-time thing. In fact, you can see awesome. More. You can definitely see more of the intricacy the second time around because it's sort of the kills don't happen until halfway through the movie, which seems kind of...
I think, 35 minutes in or something is when you get the first kill?
It may be 40. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
and the first kill isn't even that exciting. But, we enjoyed it still because it had built this certain kind of tension with, the ex-boyfriend in the store. Mm-hmm. Just some of the weird shots the guy was doing, I felt made it feel really, off-kilter. And kind of weird, and they weren't exactly good shots, but they still sort of put me on edge. I don't know how you.
I'm gonna disagree there. I think it looked gorgeous, from start to finish. It's shot in 1.85 by 1, but it has just a really, really nice look to it. If you'd told me it had been shot in anamorphic, I almost would have believed you. The lights don't quite move in the right way, but it has that really nice depth of field to it, and some of those aberrations are there.
Yeah.
I really dug that.
Yeah, and this does have a Blu-ray release, and we gotta say that it's quite gorgeous.
Yeah.
Oh, and I guess we should tell everyone this. Don't look at the poster.
Yeah, huge spoiler. Yeah, I'm glad I hadn't checked it.
The killer's actually on the poster, so definitely don't look at the poster. At least some posters, that is.
The one on Letterboxd is.
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't really connect the dots or look at it too closely, but it definitely... I mean, that's lame because it's like a pretty good twist.
Oh yeah, the best slashers are the ones where you're like actually trying to figure out who it is the whole time, and this is one of them for sure.
Yeah, and the twist was just like totally off radar. Like, I think we just sort of forget about the person who winds up being the killer just because he's so unexpected. And then he gives an amazing performance.
Oh yeah.
Once he's revealed to be the killer. Like, really great.
That scene when he's jumping from like register to register is like genuinely very physical and impressive.
Well, and then there's that one part where he's got like the boss's head and he's acting like the boss needs help. And then the girl comes over there and he lifts up the head and is like smiling with it. It's just it is just super creative and all the like just like the situations of the kills. Mm-hmm. Like there's one where just so much happens at once. A guy's head goes into like that pointy thing that receipts are on.
Oh, yeah.
And at the same time, his hand hits the calculator, and it's spurting out a bunch of paper with blood on it, and blood's dripping on a lamp, and it's turning the room red because the lights are being covered by blood.
And then there's eerie red light coming out the door later in the movie. Yeah.
I mean, it just, like, it's so creative, and, like, I had so much fun with this, and it totally like caught me off guard because I did not expect to like it as much as I did.
The kill with the bandsaw blew me away. After the movie finished, I immediately rebound to that scene and I started it again there because it was just so incredible.
Like sometimes the effects look pretty corny, but that one was surprisingly
it's too
not
real.
Corny. Yeah, like the one with the like what did you call the other thing earlier?
The baler, yeah.
The baler.
That one's bad. That one, it's like, fun.
But it's still really fun, but you could, like it's clearly a fake head. But like with the bandsaw, it's like, is that a real head?
Oh yeah. So this guy's head gets cut in half, but it's at like a really awkward point in his face, like halfway through his nose.
Yeah.
And then later on in the movie, the head shows back up, and it's just twisted a little bit, and it still looks great.
Yeah. Like, I cannot praise this movie enough. I think I wound up giving it a 9 out of 10. I enjoyed it enough that I want to give it a 10, but I feel like it's just not, like, masterwork cinema because it's a slasher movie.
But it doesn't have to be.
I know.
You know what I mean?
It doesn't feel right, so I kind of want to give it a 10. That's how much I liked it.
Yeah, no, I have it at 4 out of 5 stars and a heart, which that means it's a movie I love. Usually genre pictures will end up there unless it ends up, like, just totally blowing me away. I think the only movies in the past 2 years I've written that high were Brawl in Cell Block 99 and Raw, and for good reason. Oh, Phantom Thread. Yeah, okay. I gave that a 4.5 and a heart.
Well,
have you seen that yet?
I haven't yet.
Ah, dude, it's so good.
Oh, great off-topic thing. The theater near me was showing that, and they always put like funny puns on the marquee. And when Phantom Thread was showing, the marquee read, "There will be yarn."
That's not great.
Me and Claire freaking loved that thing, man. Thought it was the best.
Yarn doesn't sound like blood. Like
I don't know. You just gotta see it, I guess. You had to be there. But now I realize I'm sharing this for the public.
And now they all know that you have horrible taste in puns.
Yeah, that's true. It's not
Do you remember the script I wrote in high school where you got killed while I said puns?
Yes.
I think that script was called Butter.
That never got made.
And for good reason.
Was there a good reason?
That it wasn't made? Yeah, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible.
How bad?
I don't know. We'll have to go back and read it on the podcast sometime.
I'm just going to keep asking questions about it.
I'm not horribly embarrassed at all.
So any other thoughts about Intruder?
We could just keep going.
I didn't think this was going to be good because I saw the director also did From Dusk Till Dawn too.
That could be good now, though. We don't know.
I'm still unsure. Like, this has a pretty low rating compared to, like, how much I loved it. It's at a 3.2 on Letterboxd. I don't know what it is on IMDb. I'm lost for words.
I will say I was skeptical of it. Only
Nice.
because I had just watched The Midnight Meat Train, which I had always heard, like, oh, this is an underrated slasher. And it was terrible. Like, I laughed and I had fun with it, but it was just, like, an objectively, to me, very bad movie. The performances are hilariously terrible. But it's so serious, it's almost hard to take it, like, as a B movie, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like someone made a movie like Intruder, but with the sensibilities of Seven, and it just didn't work.
That sounds really tonally dissonant.
It is, yeah. There's a scene where Bradley Cooper, his character in the movie is like a photographer, and he's trying to like become famous by doing like more and more exploitative pictures, like getting really up close with like people robbing people and stuff like that. So that's how he ends up following the serial killer who's killing people on a train. And there's a scene where he and his girlfriend are like having a fight. And then she's like, well, you don't have to take pictures of them. You can just take pictures of me. And so every picture he takes, she starts removing a layer of clothing. And it's supposed to be sexy, but it isn't. And it's just really weird. And then he can't take the pictures after she gets naked because every time he tries to take it, his hand shakes and he has a flashback to one of the horrifying pictures he'd taken before. And he's crying and then she's crying. And that scene made no sense to me. It's one of the most awkward things I've ever watched. It's worth watching the movie for that scene. It's on Amazon Prime just because it was baffling to me.
I can imagine.
But anyway, that movie sucked.
Like,
Sorry, what were you
I can
saying?
imagine a terrible script based on that sex scene you just laid out there.
Well, and it's based on a Clive Barker novel, so
Oh,
it's not always a great sign
yeah.
outside of Nightbreed.
Well, we can agree to disagree on the first Hellraiser, but
That's fine.
Intruder was also pretty funny at times.
It has the Raimis in it. That's why I thought this
yeah.
movie might be good, because it had the Raimis in it, and they're funny in it. They're not in it a ton. They're in it enough.
And Sam is a producer, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I wondered how much he had to do with it.
I imagine quite a bit.
Yeah, it definitely feels like this could be like a lost Sam Raimi film, but I don't want to take away all the credit from Scott Spiegel.
No, I mean, it's such a collaborative process. I'm sure they were both very involved. And they spent a lot of time on set because one of them ends up being a corpse on a meat hook, and they show them a lot. So,
yeah.
like, there are a lot of sequences where they're just dangling in the background, and you can kind of tell it's them.
And there's another B-movie classic star that shows up in a cameo. Should we give that away, or is that too special?
I mean, it's in the opening credits. It's Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell's at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, can I just say, I don't want to spoil it, because this movie is great, and I just want to say, go out there and watch it. But that opening sequence that ending sequence is beautiful.
Yeah. It's like a second twist, kind of. Mm-hmm. Definite. Like, I don't know. Like, I was just buying everything this film gave me, even though like I don't want to spoil it, but I'll say it's kind of like a ridiculous premise in the ending. But
it
I
works.
was just,
they pulled off very well.
Yeah, I was just wholeheartedly going along with it and loving every minute.
Do you remember when 10 minutes in, you and I thought we'd cracked who the serial killer was?
Yeah.
Because there was an old man at the start of the movie, and it had, like, a killer's point of view shot of his grocery cart. And so you're like, oh, that's who it has to be. And we were horribly, horribly wrong.
Well, that's another reason. Like, I thought this was going to be a predictable slasher, but it really wasn't. I mean, maybe some of the kills are predictable, but, like... In terms
they
of,
foreshadow the kills well, though. The only kill they foreshadow that doesn't happen is it lingers on a slicer for a second.
Is the what?
It lingers on a deli slicer, like the cut like ham and stuff with.
Yeah.
I was really hoping we get something with one of those.
Yeah.
Because I've worked in the deli department, and I've been like, man, what would it look like if a hand got caught in one of these?
Well, it didn't have as many fake outs as Halloween 5 did, so...
Hey, we're not going into that until... so just so the listeners know, I'm going to Kansas for a little bit, unfortunately. So Tanner and I will be recording a second episode right after this that I'm sure is going to be totally incoherent. We don't have any plans for it. We're just going to discuss some movies. It's going to be a little bonus for y'all. We're going to release it like halfway through the week because our schedule's been kind of finicky lately. Tanner's been really busy trying to graduate school, and yeah, that's really it. He's just lazy, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just still a lazy son of a gun. I don't know. I still feel like I've been watching a lot of movies, so maybe not that lazy.
No, you've been doing...
Wait, is that a lazy
Thank
activity?
Thank you so much. Watching movies?
Yeah.
Not if you're watching it for the podcast. Technically, we could do these with the movies we buy as a tax write-off.
Yeah, you're totally right.
Dude, we should do that.
I don't know if that would be a tax write-off, but...
Horror Boys LLC.
You got anything else for Intruder, my dude?
I was going to say, I was talking about how they were foreshadowing the kills, and that kind of reminded me of Don't Breathe, and I just realized Sam Raimi also produced that.
Yeah.
Because you have that really cool tracking shot sequence where it goes through the house and it shows like the hammer and all that goodness.
Yeah. Another underrated
Although Intruder
film.
is far better than Don't Breathe.
Yeah, but Don't Breathe is still pretty good. Until the
Don't
very
Breathe made a ton
end.
of money. How's it underrated? I think it's very well received.
Good point.
It made a lot of money on its small budget, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it did, I guess.
Have you seen the Evil Dead remake by that same director?
I have. I didn't like it that much, but I think I'm just
I didn't either. I saw it in theater. Well, they like resurrect a character kind of at the end.
Yeah.
And it didn't work for me. It was just like, what? Why?
Well, and like I don't know. I'm just too fond of like the original 3 to like really buy into something that brutal and not funny.
I mean, it was kind of... There's a part where a guy slips on some cheek.
I forgot about that. Well,
and then that guy keeps getting stabbed over and over and over again. Speaking of which, that actor's in a movie called Spring that's pretty good, and those directors have a new horror movie out called The Endless that's Lovecraft-inspired, and I hear it's really good. We should watch that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that Evil Dead remake was really well received, too. At least in the horror community.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was looking at r/horror, and they were talking about how it was like one of their favorite horror remakes, and the other one was The Thing 1982. So I'm like, I really didn't like Evil Dead remake that much, but I'll go along with it.
Maybe we should rewatch it.
I think we should. I really enjoyed Don't Breathe not that long ago, so maybe watching Evil Dead will bring a different experience this time.
I will say, it was a treat to see Don't Breathe and Evil Dead in theaters. Like, at small theaters in Podunk, Kansas, I was able to see those movies, like, opening weekend. And even if I didn't love either of them, like, they are hardcore genre films. Like, the twist in Don't Breathe, I kind of, like, covered my mouth. Like, I can't believe I'm seeing this at a Mitchell theater.
Oh, like I thought it was going to be, like a Blumhouse film.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just, like, it does crazy things. Which is why I loved it. Even, like, I love it for that reason, even though I don't actually like the film that much. I really appreciate that it's sort of pushing boundaries within a mainstream horror is just, like, no good these days.
I disagree.
I mean, wait, what?
Wait, not mainstream. Well, like, all horror is kind of mainstream right now. And The Shape of Water, I didn't love that movie, but that won Best Picture. Like, that's pretty amazing.
That wasn't a horror
Get Out
movie.
won Best Screenplay. I mean, it's in the genre. Why not? I think horror's doing really well right now. The Witch got a giant release.
The
Split
Witch got a
giant release. Yeah, I saw The Witch in theaters.
Oh. It was not playing really anywhere here. But
in St. Louis, The Witch wasn't playing. You just weren't on the radar.
It was in the small theaters, maybe, but, like, what theater did you go see it at? I'm talking.
I saw it at the Old Town Warren, and the Deadpool showing had sold out, and so all the Deadpool people went to see the fucking Witch, and they talked through the whole movie, and it was so obnoxious. They were like, "This is boring," and I went, "I want to see my evil goat, damn it."
Yeah. Well, I was more referring to, like, Blumhouse films. Like,
you mean Get Out and Split?
Oh my god! Like, Get Out and Split are outliers. Steven,
they both came out last year.
So
the Conjuring
what?
movies are
They're
totally acceptable.
They're the first 2 good movies they've ever released, and it's only
That's
because
not true.
it's only because they gave their directors like creative license. Are we in our first fight?
On the podcast.
Are we in our first fight, Steven?
Yeah, me being slightly less negative about Blumhouse films is our fight. I've seen a lot of Blumhouse movies.
I don't know
theaters.
how.
I saw.
Did you see Truth or Dare
No,
yet?
I want to, but it's not playing up here. I saw Dark Skies in theaters, and that was bad. It's their alien movie.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember trailers for that, and I was like, wow, this is something I love turned into something I really hate.
Well, my family friend was visiting, and he was like, "Hey, Steven, let's go see a movie." And I said, "Okay." And then we got there, and it was like some movie with Jason Bateman and Melissa McCarthy. Identity Thief? Is that what that's called? It was that, or it
Yeah,
was Dark Skies. And so I went with Dark Skies, and then this is the only time I've ever done it, but we did mock the movie in the theater, and I would have felt bad, but it was so bad that, you know.
Was anyone else
Oh
there?
yeah, it was pretty packed.
Man, you were the worst.
Well, I was like 14, you know, and also everyone was laughing at the
Yeah.
movie. So, what are you gonna do?
Oh, well, all right. You get a pass
All
this
right.
time.
We should watch.
You
want to
move on to? Should watch
Truth or
what?
Dare for the podcast?
Sure.
No.
I was just testing you. Should we move on to Idle Hands? It'll be quick, Steven.
That's not what the movie felt
Okay.
like to me, Tanner.
So, Idle Hands is a 1999 film by Rodman Fletcher, whoever the heck that is. Devon Sawa plays a guy whose hand gets possessed, and he kills his parents, and then he kills his friends, who are Seth Green and Eldon Henson. And then he chops his hand off, and his friends come back to life, and he somehow gets together with Jessica Alba, which makes no sense, and the hand still does shit, even though it's off his body.
There have been many instances
and-
while watching movies
and
Tanner has picked
There are
that Emily has said, "This is the worst movie I've ever seen." But this was one of the times she really meant it.
Well, here's the thing. I watched this when I was way too young, probably at a babysitter's. God, I must have been like 6 to 8 or something like that, and it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life at that point. So, I shouldn't have picked it because it ruined like a good childhood memory I had.
Yeah, you're right. You shouldn't have picked it. I agree.
I thought it might have held up because I kind of liked the premise, but it was stupid.
It was just a bad stoner comedy that didn't have much going on. There were some decent effects in it, but
They spent way too much on CG.
yeah, and what's
Like, did you see the budget for this?
20 million?
Something crazy. Yeah, and it made like 3 million or something like that.
I think it made 17 million in the box office. So it's still a flop. But it may have made
Well,
less than that.
I thought it was like minuscule.
All right, let's
compared to its budget.
Idle
check this out.
Hands.
I was right. All right,
4.2 million. So you were technically 1.2 off.
And it was made for more than you said.
25 million. Whew.
That's quite a dive.
Let me tell you, an hour and 32
That's-
minutes. This movie feels long.
Yeah, it was bad. Tom DeLonge was in this film. The guy from Blink 182.
Who was he?
I have no idea. I just saw his name in the cast. He believes in aliens now, which leads us into our next film, Love and Saucers.
We gotta talk about it. So Idle Hands tried to cash in on the success of Scream, because this was like what, a year after Scream 3, the same year as Scream 3. and
something like that.
it fails terribly. It starts out serviceable, and it just, I don't know, it never gets horrible. It's just like not funny and crude and boring.
Yeah.
There were a couple times I laughed, like when the girl said that she thought that the people who'd been murdered were special needs and told them to go suck each other's dicks, and the guy went, "Did they?" But then that was like a pity laugh. I think that was the only time I laughed the whole movie.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Actually, a friend came in while I was watching this movie and kind of enjoyed it, and I lost all respect
Were they
for him.
under the influence of anything?
Yeah, he was a little drunk. Not that drunk though.
That'll do it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched this movie too sober. Wow, I don't have anything to say about this piece of shit. Seth Green's in it, and he's not funny, which is a shame, because I like Seth Green, kind of. I like him in that X-Files episode, the first Austin Powers. That's it. That's the extent of my like for Seth Green.
I like him in Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed.
Okay, actually, you know what? I want to talk about those movies, because those movies are like Idle Hands, except done slightly better. The first one was shot as an R-rated comedy, and then they edited it into a kids movie, so it's still kind of funny. The scripts are by James Gunn.
There's still a lot of hidden like weed jokes in it,
and just
like I wouldn't have picked up when I was a kid.
It plays with the tropes and stuff in like kind of fun way. Like making Scrappy Doo the villain at the end of the Scooby Doo movie is gold, and then it's also who's it? Tony Shalhoub. No, it's Rowan Atkinson.
Oh, no. It's, but wasn't Tony Shalhoub also?
I think he might have been.
I'm wrong. Rowan Atkinson was a good show. But, like, the only thing that made that movie suck was the CG.
And even that's, like, whatever. Like, it's of the era. I mean, Sugar Ray's performing. I'm not gonna... CG that's that bad.
It's that old?
CG only really bothers me if it's detracting from the experience. And it's like I'm watching a live-action Scooby-Doo movie. I'm not, you know...
I guess that's true. Yeah. I guess.
No,
I liked the second one because it brought back a lot of the old villains.
Yeah, the Tar Man or whatever. Remember he was in that.
Yeah. But that was as a kid. It's definitely way worse than the first one. Even though James Gunn wrote the second one too. I saw that recently and was quite shocked.
I would kill to see the R-rated cut of the first movie.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that would be pretty hilarious playing with the tropes.
Do you think it was just language? Do you think it was sex jokes? Like, what do you think bumped it up? Because, I mean, you watch it, and it's a decent PG-13 now. Like, there's nothing terrible in it.
Yeah. Well, no. Like, they actually smoke weed in the R-rated cut, I hear, because they cut out Scooby-Doo, or not Scooby-Doo, but Shaggy smoking weed in the Mystery Machine. And the only thing you see is when they open the back of the van and
there's smoke coming out. Yeah.
But I think in the R-rated cut it said that Shaggy's actually smoking weed, and maybe Scooby-Doo is.
So that's really the only difference.
Can dogs smoke weed?
I think they CG'd out some cleavage in it too.
Yeah, I mean probably.
What a tragedy. You know what else did that? Herbie Fully Loaded, directed by the lady who did Debs, which is on Amazon Prime right now. And if you're in the mood for a really nice action rom-com by the director of photography for The Love Witch, even though it's not shot on 16mm and instead very early digital, go and do yourself a favor. D.E.B.S. It's a masterpiece.
That was the strangest plug you've ever. Directed by the person who did Herbie Fully Loaded.
And they did John Marston and the Wonder Woman movie last year that wasn't Wonder Woman. About the guy who created Wonder Woman and was into like BDSM and threesomes or something. Yeah, she did that, and I want to see it now because I'm a big Debs fan.
All right. Well, you have anything else to say about Idle Hands?
Let's talk through it a bit, Tanner. This is the rant episode. That's going to be the subtitle.
The what
the
episode?
Rant episode.
The rant?
Because we're going on tangents.
Well, I could rant about Intruder for days, but Idle Hands, it's not even bad enough to rant about. It's just sort of childish, you know? Like, that's the only way I describe it. I mean, I liked it as a child.
Yeah. I think if you released it nowadays and you cut out the language and some of the sex, like, I think it could be PG-13 with the violence it has. Like, I think it would be a decent, early teen comedy, and that's about it.
Well, how could he cut off his hand in a PG version?
PG-13 is what I said. There's plenty of violence. In X-Men Apocalypse, a guy gets lifted in the air and crushed into a ball while all his bones break and stick out of his body.
I apologize.
Yeah, movie's not worth watching for that, if that sounded cool. It looks terrible. I hate that movie.
Oh, also the lead... Excuse me.
My name's Tanner. I like yawning.
Sorry, Idle Hands is boring. Speaking of boring, the lead is horrible.
Yeah.
And
was he in anything else?
Like... I don't know. I've never heard of this guy before.
Well, I went on the Letterboxd and I was looking at the reviews for it, and everyone was talking about how, like, he was like their depression king or something like that. I don't know. And I went, Emily, is this guy attractive? And she said, no, definitely not.
He was in SLC Punk.
Nice. Which has Matthew Lillard of the new Scooby-Doo.
Also was in Final Destination.
Which also has Matthew Lillard.
He was the lead of the first Final Destination.
Matthew Lillard isn't really in that. I haven't seen that. Are those good? I watched a scene where a girl getting killed doing gym stuff they had the
with the Wii music.
Yeah, with the Wii music, and that was beautiful. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's based on an X-Files script.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's based on an unused X-Files script. I can't remember who wrote it, but that always made me kind of want to watch it.
We should do that.
Glenn Morgan wrote it. Who wrote a bunch of X-Files episodes.
Nice.
He was also in Casper.
The live-action one?
Yes.
Did he play Harmony Korine?
No, he played Casper on screen.
So, for those listening, that was a really, really bad joke on my part. There's a character in the Harmony Korine, Larry Clark film, Kids, named Casper, and I made a terrible joke about that just now. So, if you haven't shut off the podcast already, just go ahead and do that. It's all downhill from here, but we are about to talk about Love and Saucers, which is a movie about a guy who thinks he had sex with an alien a whole bunch of times.
Well... See, like, I don't know about if we should have done Idle Hands in the middle, because it really sort of, like, we're sort of bookending this with things we both liked.
Well, good. That's how we should do it, right?
Yeah, I guess. But, like, before we move on...
Let's talk about Idle Hands for a minute.
Never watch Idle Hands. That's all I want to say.
I would like to say...
Unless you're, like... high or something.
Idle Hands, Jessica Alba in that movie, has no personality. Her only trait is that she wants to have sex with the main character the second they meet. And that was upsetting to me, because it was like, what does she see in this guy other than that he read her poetry without her permission? And then she, like, bumbles around while her cleavage shows. And I, as a woman myself, was very offended by that.
And she was also underage in this.
Was she really?
So,
that's gross.
Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, it's
disgusting.
I'm repulsed.
I'm
burning my DVD.
Can't even think about it.
I don't own the DVD. I rented this. Thank you very much.
You hadn't burnt it already just from watching it.
I would have given it to someone in a white elephant.
I'm done talking about...
let's move on. So, yeah, please don't watch Idle Hands. I'm sorry we didn't have anything compelling to say about that, but really, Tanner just made the worst pick probably we've had on the podcast. So, thanks for that.
That's not true.
What was worse?
I don't think. Uh, I don't know. Certainly, there's something we've watched that's worse, but I can't.
We've
think
watched
of it
worse
right
movies,
now.
but
I'll
none we
come
could
back
talk
to
about
it.
less than this, outside of maybe that one you made me watch about the ambulance. That was called
Oh
The
yeah.
Ambulance.
Well, that was a better movie though.
It was, but it was very boring, and I didn't have anything to say about it.
I didn't either. I couldn't remember what happened. And the whole plot didn't make sense in retrospect, but I was just kind of going along.
I think
with it.
Emily explained that a little bit. It was that they were doing experiments on the people with diabetes so that they wouldn't have to pay to experiment on people, and that they could do it without like having to worry about morals or anything, was what they were doing there. I guess. I don't know.
Oh.
And that's why they were kidnapping
So,
people.
like-
But like, why diabetes? Like, that's a really boring idea
don't
for
know.
that. Was that a new concept in the 80s? Okay, everyone listening in, comment on this video and or podcast. When did diabetes exist?
Well, I mean, it's probably always existed, but when was it first
No, I want to know when it existed.
discovered?
Tanner. Yeah, unearthed.
It's always. I mean, let's.
You telling me
see.
cavemen had low
Let's
blood
see.
sugar?
No, they didn't eat that much sugar.
That's a good point.
I mean, it's only because of all the stuff we got around now, probably. Okay, let's see. It was one of the first diseases described with an Egyptian manuscript from 15,000 BC. So diabetes most certainly was not new.
Well, Larry Cohen,
I hate
bad
to tell
on
you
you for
this.
that.
Yeah, I mean, I love Larry Cohen though, dude.
Maniac Cop ruled.
I love him. I love him a lot. All three Maniac Cops are. I have fun with each and every one of them.
You know what I had
Rest
fun
in
with?
peace, Robert
A little
Sedar.
documentary on Amazon Prime called Love and Saucers, about a man who thinks he had sex with an alien.
That was a weird transition.
Cool. Let's talk about this. So you've been talking to me about this for a couple of months. How'd you discover it?
So I thought the podcast I listen to most, quick plug, is Mysterious Universe, and I follow their subreddit. And someone posted about this documentary when it was still in production, and I just sort of followed it around, waiting for it to come out. And eventually, it was in the iTunes store, so I went ahead and watched it. Yeah, and I'm always been fascinated by like UFOs, the abduction experience.
Tanner has alien sex fetish fantasies.
That's not true. Like, I mean, pushing all that aside, this is the best documentary I've seen covering the abduction experience, I guess, in general. I mean, it's unfortunate that you can just say I have a fetish because of this, but no. Like, it covers its subject with respect. It doesn't treat him as crazy. But it also doesn't legitimize anything.
Right, yeah, and that was...
It just sort of...
I believe in
go ahead.
UFOs and stuff, you know? So at the start, I was like, hey, maybe this guy really, truly believes it. And at the end, I still believed that he believed it. But by the end, I was like, this guy has some sort of illness. But yeah, it covers it really well. It doesn't. They never give an opinion. I think the only time the documentarians talk the whole movie is when he's holding a copy of The Uninvited on VHS, and they're like, "Is that how you feel about your experiences?" And he says, "No, they were always invited." That's the only time I think the documentarians chime in.
Which, I mean, that's a pretty great... I mean, there's just so many... great sound bites from this. I would say. Like, I remember the trailer being something I was definitely into, and like, he doesn't seem crazy.
He's a normal guy outside of all of his paintings of him having had sex with aliens named Crescent.
I would buy one of those paintings
I would
in
too.
an instant.
Oh yeah, they're great. They look beautiful.
Just to say I have it. Even I mean, beautiful. I
Some
don't
of
know.
them
It's
are
not
very
really my
nice.
type of art.
Some of them look really good.
Some of them are very good. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't get one of like an alien woman mounting him.
There were a lot of those.
But,
Him sucking an alien boob, stuff like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy those ones, but I'd buy just some of the more PG
This is
ones.
a life scale
Um,
model of the giant alien woman I had sex with.
yeah, well, I mean, that's why it's fascinating, though. He believes it, other people believe it. There's other people who have had these experiences, but to us, it's just so out there. And I don't know. I've always loved this kind of stuff just because of like how like the way fact and fiction just sort of overlaps sometimes sort of fascinates me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there for sure. I really like the way the documentary was made. It's well shot and it's just really well composed. It never overstays its welcome. I think it's like an hour and 10 minutes or something like that. And
Yeah, nothing
up
bad.
until the end, there really aren't any interviews or anything. It's all just that guy, and it's just him telling his stories. And you're along with it for the whole ride. He started losing me a little bit when he was talking about how the memories didn't come back to him until he had read that book. Which I don't. Do you
Yeah.
buy repressed memories at all?
I have trouble with it. I think like I also was in the same boat. Like he had some memories before that. I I don't really like it depends on if he was hypnotized, I guess, into letting those repressed memories out or if which I don't remember
No,
the answer to that.
he read a guy's
Um
experiences about being abducted by a UFO, and that brought the memories back to him.
I'm a little more inclined to believe that than if he was like went through like a memory regression session. But at the same time, it's impossible to say that that if this guy was making it
Yeah,
up
no,
or
we can't
not.
at all. I know that documentary, The
Yeah.
Keepers on Netflix. That one, I don't know. I
Hmm.
mean, I didn't finish it, so maybe it all ended up being totally true. But it was like, how do you repress this many memories? You know what I mean? Like it was the she just kept digging and
Oh
discovering
yeah.
more. That was kind of crazy to me. Because I've had things that pop back to me that I hadn't thought about in years that were kind of traumatic when I was a child. Not to that extent, of course,
Yeah.
but like it wasn't ever like, oh, I haven't remembered this in years. It was like, oh, I just haven't thought about this in a long time because it was unpleasant, you know?
I think it's like that actually, but it's just so overwhelming emotionally that the mind actually does something like unfounded and it just sort of throws it somewhere where it's really really hard to find. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not a doctor,
Well, yeah,
obviously.
but you've done, I don't
uh
know, you're smarter than me. I just figure you know this shit.
I'm an English major. I'm not a
You
psychologist.
you will have a
um
degree in a week, okay?
I will. Film minor, English major. It's going to be exciting. I'll actually have some credentials to do this
Yeah, there you go.
podcast.
We'll just put doctorates in front of this.
Yeah. Um, but as like talking about David Huggins again, I think I think just the way the documentary treats him, where it's like all the documentary really says, or like its only thesis statement is this stuff is real to him, and to like a lot of people that should be enough to treat him with respect.
And yeah, I think it's really easy to as a viewer. I mean, you don't really
Yeah,
get the sense, or at least I didn't, that the guy was a loon at all, you know?
yeah. Well, I mean, and these people can get ridiculed. Like, I don't know. Like, I would like. I don't want to debate whether he's telling the truth or not. Whether it actually happened or not, rather. Um, but like just just like seeing him be open like this when he knows that he's gonna be ridiculed for it, something just feels really genuine
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, no, I agree there
Because I
for
mean,
sure.
especially when he says when he says he's having sex with the aliens, he's gonna get ridiculed more than the average abductee.
It's really weird how he goes into that. Like, for most of the experiences, he was paralyzed, and then he had alien babies, like tree trunks in that episode of Adventure Time.
Yes. I think you showed me that.
Yes,
one.
I did. That was my pitch to you for Adventure Time. Although that is not the weirdest episode in the series, it would be the one that is referencing Nicholas Rogue's Bad Timing, which is just called Bad Timing.
That's really
That's a great movie, by the way. Plugging that. Art Garfunkel in it. It's beautiful. I love that movie. You seen that?
I haven't. You're plugging a lot tonight,
Art Garfunkel, Teresa Russell, and Harvey Keitel. It's great.
Sounds good. I love that director. Walkabout.
Walkabout's a lower tier movie for me by him. It's great, but
I love Walkabout. The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Beautiful.
Though.
Yeah.
You like that one better?
Yes, definitely. That's probably my favorite of his. But
Oh, you talked about the Keepers for a second.
Yeah.
What was I going to say about that? Cut this.
I don't edit anymore. I just set it to 2 times speed, and I cut out any time I say something horribly offensive or a racial slur.
I guess that works. Yep. I assume we're at least somewhat interesting. So the Keepers is another one of those things where...
Did that end well? Should I finish that?
I mean, it doesn't end great. Like, more people come out with claims, which weren't repressed, which were just not said.
Yeah.
Because they'd get in trouble.
Was there the twist that her dad was one of the molesters? Because she said there was a cop in the room, and her dad was a cop.
I don't think it was her dad. I mean, I was just going to use that as an example of, like, repressed memories probably being true.
Oh.
It was like every freaking girl in that school was molested by this priest. And she, if her memories are correct, then she probably had the worst experience of them all.
Yeah.
And also saw the nun before she died and repressed that as well.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. I think the fact that so many people were there backing up her claims, I wasn't like, oh, this is BS. It was odd to me that she had so much there, you know?
Yeah, it was odd that she just then remembered that she saw the nun's possibly body.
Yeah. It was like she would go and meditate, and then it would come back to her. You know, that was very odd to me. But yeah. I'm not trying to refute her claims.
I don't know. Yeah, no. I mean, I think she's telling the truth. I don't know.
We're Father Neil Maskell apologists.
Is that his name?
I think so.
I am definitely not, and you're gonna edit that out.
It's staying in.
Set it to 2 times speed, and edit out all the offensive things. And racial slurs.
Whoa, who said those?
You've said those.
No.
He called the Italians Guidos.
Did I say that?
No.
What's the Italian slur? Is that the one that offends him?
I think Guido. Guido?
Goomba? Is Goomba a racial slur? Is Mario...
I don't think you can say that, Steven.
You see the Super Mario Bros. Movie?
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
What? What the hell are you... Mario who? What did you think I was going on about?
Oh, it's a term of endearment. Never mind.
What?
I thought it was something way worse in, like, Italian slang.
Which one? Bird.
Goomba.
Oh, I think Pope is actually offensive.
Well, I think I thought Goomba was, like, a word for another race from an Italian.
Oh.
No. You know what I'm saying?
No.
I watched a lot of Sopranos, so I feel like I've heard a lot of them, but I've repressed those.
May I just say, the sister in The Sopranos is the worst character in all of history.
Just to reaffirm, you're talking about Tony's sister, not Meadow.
Yeah. No, Tony's sister annoyed me so much I stopped watching the show.
Yeah. She's pretty bad.
I've had people like her in my life, and I just can't handle that.
Yeah, I don't. I think she's doing her job extremely well, but
Oh, great performance. It's just ugh.
yeah,
Anyway, back to Love and
it's
Saucers. This guy had
too
sex
real.
with some aliens, and he and his wife got
I don't know.
divorced after he told her about it, and then they lived together until for 30 years after that. They still live together, I believe, which is very odd to me. What's that dynamic like? What's the point in getting divorced if that's the case? You just get worse tax write-offs.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Well, I want you to get me one.
He worked. He worked at like a sandwich shop, right?
At the end of the movie, yeah, that's what he'd been doing, but I don't think he did that his whole life. Yeah, he was working at a deli, and everyone there was like, I think it's weird, but that's his lifestyle, so go for it.
Yeah, no, like I felt like a lot of the people around him actually treated him way better than I would have expected.
Because he seemed like a good guy. He just had some odd experiences.
Yeah. And I'd be highly doubtful if there was no truth to them. I think there's going to be some truth. I just don't know how.
So let's dig in here. Do you think he was actually abducted by aliens or had any encounters?
I think he was actually abducted. I don't know if all of the sex stuff happened. Well, I mean, they always talk about how abduction experience can be a stand-in for like some type of sexual abuse, but I didn't get the impression that he ever went through anything like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's weird that there's all this sexual stuff like going along with the encounters, like even more so than usual.
Mm-hmm.
Like almost every abduction has like some sort of like sexual implication because they're getting like anally probed.
Mm-hmm.
But this like sort of went like way over that line.
It's weird how when you're a kid you hear about anal probing and it's like a funny thing you joke about. Like, oh, aliens took me and they anal probed me. But now it's like that's just rape.
Yeah. I mean, like, what do I want to say?
You want to meet to the aliens is what you're saying.
Kind of. I wanted to say there's a lot of abduction experiences I think can be written off as people seeking attention or seeking or actually having some type of trauma they haven't dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess I've been reading too much about this stuff my whole life.
Yeah,
but,
no, I'm with you. Like a loss of time, that sort of thing, they can be correlated with actual horrible things that happen, and people just don't want to accept that. And it's somehow easier for them to accept the absolute fantastical than to deal with the actual traumas that they've experienced.
Yeah.
It's interesting and horribly depressing.
Yeah. In this case, I don't see anything pointing to that because I would have assumed the director would have asked him about his parents, gotten some type of information. Someone they would have interviewed would have said something if there was some type of sexual abuse going on. But maybe I'm entirely wrong.
Can I give you my pitch about what happened there?
Yeah.
I think he did have some form of trauma as a child. I don't know what. Mm-hmm. But when he read that book, the things that felt off about him his whole life, he found, and it wasn't like, he is not lying, but his brain came up with its own defense mechanism and used that as a way to get around whatever happened. You know what I mean? And so I think those stories started coming back to him more and more and more. And some of it might have been his imagination, but at that point, how is he going to be able to tell if that's truth or not, you know?
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to mention one of the people they interview towards the end is a professor of religious studies named Jeff Kripal. And he was a guy who I've actually talked with because I wrote a thesis on a similar topic as this movie. But what he's talking about in the end is that fiction and the supernatural sort of write each other. And I totally see that sort of happening here. But at the same time, he'd probably heavily disagree with my opinion that he might not be telling the truth, because to him it wouldn't really matter, like the truth value of this guy's statements.
Well, I think if he believes it, that's what we have to take. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a way in which, since he believes it, it actually has happened to him.
Yeah.
Which I think is just, like, it's why I love reading about this stuff. That notion is so foreign to me that, like, I don't know, it's just fascinating.
Well, and a lot of his sexual encounters with the aliens involve paralysis. And that, if I recall from what I've heard on an Australian conspiracy theory podcast, Mysterious Universe, which we plug all the time, that is one of the things that's commonly linked with sexual abuse, right? Like that sort of helplessness?
Yes, yeah. I mean, there have been a lot of stories on there about abductees who actually have been through, like, sexual abuse. And that's sort of what it comes down to.
Did you talk to your professor about the documentary at all? Or not the professor,
I didn't
the
actually.
guy. Do you have his email?
I didn't actually. I do. Would you like me to email him?
Let's get him on the pod, man.
Um,
Let's have him talk about the religion in Eraserhead.
I don't know how professional that would be.
No, it wouldn't be professional at all. I'm joking. Don't do that, please. Tanner and I are thirsty as hell for, like, good podcast guests. So if you guys got any connections, you got a cousin who is an extra in Idle Hands, give us the hookup, please.
I mean, speaking of which, we just had our first interview last week, which we just released, which was Lynn Kabinski. Okay, you're going to have to edit
All right,
this.
That was disrespectful.
Lynn Kabazinski.
We had Len Kabazinski on the pod last week. How'd you feel about that, Tanner?
I couldn't have been happier with him as a podcast guest.
He's great.
He did all the talking, which helped us immensely because neither of us are good interviewers.
No, not at all.
But he made it seem like we gave a good interview.
Yeah. And we got, like, really, really all-around polite feedback from the community. When I was editing it, I was like, oh, I look like such a douchebag in this. I was really worried, but people were real nice about it.
Well, yeah, and Lynn was so nice about it, too. Just a really great guy to talk to. We hope we can do more things like that. He said he'd be back for
Swamp Zombies 2
podcast about Swamp Zombies 2.
And he wants to bring his editor on, which will be really cool. Because I'm going to assume by the time he comes on, we'll have seen it, and I'll have plenty of questions to ask him. I should say he has a Patreon going, which will get you Swamp Zombies 2 early access for, I think, the end of this month, maybe the start of June. But then he also has an Indiegogo going right now for Challenge of the Five Gauntlets, which is co-starring Leo Fong, who is 89 of Low Blow fame.
It's going to be insane.
And it's in talks to have the Red Letter Media guys get killed by Low Blow. So you have to donate to this.
Oh my god.
Yeah. If you give $100, you get your name on there as an associate producer credit.
That.
I only did the $25 one, but I'm contemplating boosting it up just to have my names in those credits, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah, please donate to that.
I think that about covers it for this episode. Do you want to give our, like, final ratings?
All right, Intruder, perfect movie. I'm going to say it. Perfect movie.
Perfect. I gave it a 4.5.
I gave it a 4, but
Possibly
that's perfect
a 5
in
for
my
me.
book. Yeah. Possibly 4.5 or 5 on a rewatch. Who knows?
Yeah. Idle Hands?
I don't remember what I rated it. Do you?
I rated it 2.5, but looking back, it could easily be a 2.
You gave it 2.5? That's high, man. Oh, I haven't rated it. I'm going to give it a 1.5. No.
It was bad, but it was like...
It'll get it.
I mean, it was childish, but it wasn't like a badly made movie.
All right, I'm rating it for you. Save. Okay, there we go. 2 stars. Idle Hands. I would not recommend it under any circumstances. This director, Rodman Flender, did Leprechaun 2. So please avoid this guy at all costs. But if you could get him on the podcast for us, that would be great.
If he ever wants to look our way.
Oh,
but,
let's
Love and Saucers.
Let's announce real quick.
Go
We're
ahead.
going to have the director of Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and The Hidden and Alone in the Dark, Jack Shoulder, on the podcast. That's it, right?
Yep, that's coming up.
Yeah.
A month or two.
We're very excited for that. Yeah, he just did a couple podcasts, but he'll be coming on. I think he'll be a good guest. He'll be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to give The Hidden a watch, and we've both wanted to watch that for quite a while.
So that'll be good. And then, yeah, Love and Saucers. I gave it a 3.5-star rating because, I don't know, something about it didn't click with me quite as much as I wanted. I was close to giving it a 4, but I might rewatch it. I've been thinking about it a lot, so it might earn it. We'll see.
I wound up giving it a 4 just because I watch a lot of these paranormal, supernatural documentaries, and they're all horrible. And this one was actually good, and treated the subject with respect while not just taking everything wholesale. For reference, there's another documentary called, what was it called? Oh, it was called Extraordinary, the Stan Romanek story. And that guy is a child molester, and he's full of shit. And it was a horrible documentary.
What is that? Is that streaming? That sounds fun. Where's that at?
That's on Netflix. Oh, he's also a fraud. He's also a fraudster.
When you say he's a pedophile, what do you mean by that?
He's gotten caught with child porn.
Oh, I mean,
but the government did it.
Is that what he said? He said the government planted child porn on him.
Yeah,
That's
and he's also been called out for faking like alien footage. Like there's a video called like the Peekaboo video, where an alien sticks its head up to like a window, and it's just bad. It looks like an alien head on a stick. But anyway.
What was the one you had Emily and I watched that was really bad about the guy who found the little carcass or something? It was just an aborted child.
I told you not to watch that.
No, you recommended it as a facetious thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, Stephen Greer is also.
What was that called? Thomas Jane narrated that, right?
Yeah, it was called Sirius.
Yeah.
He made a sequel recently.
You said that was less bad, right?
It was less bad, but then in the end it turns into like similar conclusions.
Spoil it for me. Let me know what happens.
Well, like it covers like UFO stuff being hidden by the government, and like that stuff's compelling, but then it's like all like, I mean, you remember in Sirius when all the people are like meditating in the desert?
Yes, I do.
Trying to contact the UFOs. It ends on a similar note, which totally ruins the whole like interesting thing about like UFOs being like made secret by the government. Like everything they know about UFOs is hidden. But recently with some of the stuff they've released, I don't think they know a lot.
No.
I think they've seen a lot of them, but I don't think they know a damn thing about them.
And this takes me back to my closing point on Love and Saucers. This documentary on Amazon Prime, and really do give it a watch, it's fascinating, is like...
I think it's on Hulu too, if that makes a difference.
Who has Hulu but not... whatever. It's like Close Encounters of the Third Kind if Richard Dreyfuss never found Devil's Tower, but still lost his family and was just really depressed. That's my comparison.
That's beautiful, Steven.
Yeah, thank you. Close Encounters, the movie Tanner said he wasn't huge on, which is unfortunate.
I mean, Love and Saucers is sad and depressing, but I think that's the reality of the phenomenon.
I really don't think it's that depressing, honestly. I was just like, good on this guy.
Are you Stephen Greer? Are you gonna start meditating, trying to talk to UFOs, and then they'll sing songs?
Bitch, I'm meditating right now.
Encounters? All right. Well, on that note, you want to close this out?
I love all of you a lot. Thank you for listening, if you are.
Yeah.
Thank you to our new listeners that we got through Reddit. Like 60% of the people who watched our last episode, they were all through Reddit. So seriously, thank you so much for that. And if you missed the video format this week, let us know. Emily, who's never listened to the podcast, told me that she liked the video format more, but mileage will vary on that.
Yeah. that was scary for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing it off a phone. But it wound up looking pretty good, I thought.
I looked like a douche. I kept like leaning over and drinking my kombucha because I figured I'd be cutting, but then I was like, that doesn't really work for this format.
Yeah, I mean, I had a weird looking forehead in it too.
I did the best I could to edit. It was really red for some reason, so I selected that specific tone and I pulled it down, but then it got a little blue. It was weird.
It was because of the lamp in front of my face.
Yeah. Well,
but
we can do it again if people like it. If the audience demands it.
And we can always do it for interviews, I guess.
Yeah.
If the people we're interviewing seem into it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Okay, so Tanner and I have to go record another episode that'll be even less on topic than this one. So stay tuned for that. If you finish this and you want that right now, we'll just release it.
I would argue, Steven, that we watched worse films for the bonus episode.
Yes, that is... no. Idle Hands is... Well...
Nope.
Stay tuned and we'll discuss
like Idle
it then.
Hands more than one of the other movies we watched.
All right, I'll give you that. All
right. I'm learning more and more about this as we go.
Yeah.
And you're trying to keep it from me, but you
can't.
Well,
that's true. I can't ever keep it from Tanner. Okay, thank you guys so much for listening. I love y'all. Goodbye.
Love you guys too. Thanks for listening. So long.